Hey everyone, welcome to Martelli Sew and Show subscription box, and I have it right here in front of me, and it is so cute, and I hope you love it as much as I do. So here is our bag, so we're going to go ahead and open her up and see what's in here. We're going to start with, oh my goodness, it's called Make Your Own Lisa's Hobo Bag. What? We're going to be making this today. Look at that. So this is our roadmap. So this gives you all the good fun things that you're going to need of what's going into here. And then we have our giveaway. We have our quilters group, all the little QR codes to join all of our social media and email updates. So that's a good thing to have. And everything in here is going to be what you're going to need to be able to make the Hobo Bag. So we've got our templates, our Sew and Show subscription box, Hobo Bag, and here's the templates. We got our full written pattern here with a photo on here. So here's our templates, and in here is all of our pieces that we're going to need to make this. We've got our fabric, a nice canvas from Moda. We got a beautiful piece of cream. I believe we also got that from Moda. You got a piece of black. This is for your strap. We got a little bit of interfacing in here, and then we've got the fun things in this little bag. You're going to have your webbing. You're going to have your gold zipper tape. I've got my magnetic snap. We're going to be putting a snap in here. You got a gold zipper slider. We got an O-ring. We got a little lobster claw clasp, and we have this fun little tassel that's black and gold, and everything all matches. So you want to see what it looks like? Well, here we go. This is our Hobo Bag that we're going to be making today. Nice big roomy bag, fits great on your shoulder. You've got a little snap tab on here so that you can snap it closed or not. You can decide if you want to put the snap on here or not. The fun part is the nice big zipper that's on the back. We did the gold zipper. We added the little tassel on here. I think it just kind of pulls it all together. Got a nice big hidden pocket that's right here. And then on the inside, we have 3 big pockets on both sides. So you got 6 pockets on the inside. Well, you can have it more. You can make more, but I did it with 6. So you got 3 on one side, 3 on the other. And then you've got your hidden pocket right here. So lots of pockets in this, and this one is going to be so much fun to make. It goes together pretty quick. There is a lot of prep work to get to where we start sewing everything together, but it is so much fun, and we got all the steps on putting it all together in our pattern. 3 templates in here, but 2 of them go together like a little puzzle. Let me just grab this one right here. So here are the templates that you're going to have in your bag. You've got these 2 pieces right here. So we needed them to fit into our box. So we divided it so it goes together like a puzzle piece. So that has no rhyme or reason. It's just that's our puzzle piece so that when you put it together, you've got your full template right here. Got some different writings on here. You need to pay attention to this bottom. This is the bottom of the pocket placement. This is just a guide of where your zipper will be, but I'll be showing you how to actually position it onto your bag for where your zipper is going to be. This is for your snap placement. You're going to be cutting this out, and then you're going to be marking it for where you're going to put your snap, and I'm going to show you where to put the snap on the main body of the bag. So these are the 2 pieces that you got with this. So nice template set. What I love about the templates is that you can make these over and over and over, and you're going to come out perfect every single time. So you've got this. You've got the full written instructions inside of here. So I'm going to grab this, and it's got all the we added a photo to it, so now you can see what it's going to look like when it is finished. We'll start being sure to put that on all of our projects in the future. But you've got your pattern in here, and it's a front and back. So on the front, you have all the supplies that you got that's in the bag. I've got some definitions on here that are important. You got width of fabric, right sides together, right side out, right side up, and right side down. I use those in the pattern. And then you got all the instructions for the cutting and everything. So we're going to go through all this, and then we got the back side to put all of this together. The one thing I didn't talk about was the dimensions. So let's talk about how big this bag is. The bag that we're going to be making today, the body itself, the main body part. When I talk about the body part, I'm talking about from top to the bottom right here, not adding these side pieces, but just top to bottom. It is about 12 inches from width to, on this thing, from width to width all the way across. It is 15 inches across. And from our depth, how wide it is, it's about 6 inches. But the total height with the strap and everything is about 24 inches. That's the size of this bag right here. So this is what we're going to be making today. Nice, great size bag. But because we're Martelli and we always want to come up with more things for those of you who are our subscribers to the Sew and Show subscription box, we made another size just for you that will not be available to anybody else for about 3 months. So we have a large hobo bag that we've also going to make available for you, and it's going to be the exact same thing, just larger, and the pattern with it, I updated that pattern so it'll fit with the instructions for it. And it is going to be, so here's the dimensions of it, and I'm going to pull a couple out to show you. But the width of this one is 19 inches versus the 15. It's 19 inches wide. The body height is 6 inches versus the 12 inches. The depth is still the same. It's still just the 6 inches, but with the strap all the way on it, it's 30 inches. It's a great bag. So you want to see what that one looks like? I got them right here. These are the large hobo bag. I think you see the photo of the one. This is our large hobo bag. Same thing, has the big wide pockets, the inside pockets, just all kinds of fun things that you can do with this one. But one thing that I did different on this one, it seems to be everywhere, all the rage is to be able to make a bag where you can put your big cups in, your Stanley cup. So I have one more thing you're not having in your hands. So I figured out a way to take that one pocket so that I can slip a large cup in here. So I got one here. This is a large cup. It's about the size of a Stanley, and it fits perfectly down inside this large bag by just the way you create that pocket. So awesome. It doesn't spill over, so you can slip a bottle of water in here. You can do all kinds of things. But this is the large bag, and it's available for you if you want to add that to your inventory. So just bigger, but it has so much more room to the large bag. So comparing it to the two bags, you can see the big difference between the two. Just absolutely fun to make the big large bag in so many fun colors. This one I did add with, if I'm doing something that's not like the canvas that's on the main bag, these larger other ones, this one I actually quilted it. I used a lightweight or mid-weight fusible fleece inside to give them just a little bit of body. And on this one here is canvas, so I didn't have to add that extra filler for the fabric in here. But these were fun to make, and they go together just as fun as the main one that we're going to be doing today. I have some more examples for you. So you see the one that we're doing, it can be so much fun. One thing that I really like about this bag is this big piece right here. You could really showcase this up. You could applique on here. You can do some embroidery work on here. It would be a lot that you could do on this big blank space on the one side. So here's one that I had done where I did this out of denim, and I cut this out of a panel. I frayed the edge, I sewed it onto a piece of fabric, and I frayed the edges to it. And that is the same fabric as I have as my lining on the inside of this one here. But I had a lot of fun with our pull. I took our zipper, I added a hook onto it, I added an O-ring, and I took some of that same fabric and I just added some strips to make a really unique zipper pull. So you could just have some fun, really dress these up with what you want to do. Here is one that I took a panel, a 24-inch panel, and it was what I was able to make for the outside, but the top of the panel I was able to use for the lining. So it was absolutely fun. Then I added another fabric to coordinate with it for my pockets. And here is the back with the zipper. And I created and we got a little zipper tassel or pull that's on here to dress it up a little bit. I'm going to show you this gorgeous purple one. This was made out of just some fun fabric that I had here at the studio. I made the strap out of the exact same fabric. Pulled a coordinating purple on the inside. This one was absolutely fun. I think this one's Margot's favorite. Here's one I made out of some Martelli fabric. How cool is that? So this is our pink canvas that we have. And I found some really cool sewing fabric to put on for the lining, and then I used it for to make the strap for it, the handle. Fun little pull I put on this one. And here is the very first one that I made before I actually had the gold tape. Look at that. So I wanted to talk about these fun things that you can use for your zipper pull. We've added this little tassel in here, but this is just some earrings that I don't wear. So I was able to connect it to a little hook here and an O-ring, and it became part of a zipper pull. And that's one of the fun things. If you have some earrings that you maybe only have one of, or you just want to try some different things. I have some earrings here that I am not using. So here's the one I've got on one of them. Just simple earrings that you can take and add an O-ring to it and make it part of a zipper pull. Just some fun things that you can do. So that's how you can dress them up to make them more unique. All right, so let's go back and take a minute, and we'll get diving right into putting our project together. If you notice right here to my right, I have some of the tools that you will find very useful in putting this project together. I have, of course, our rotary cutter. You're going to need some clips. You're going to need some pins. You might need to grab your old jackknife seam ripper. I have some chalk on here, so I'm using the chalk. You'll see it in a couple different areas. Some scissors, a marking pencil, some pinking shears, of course, the big scissors. I have some 1/4-inch double-sided tape. This came in handy in our zipper placement instead of pinning it, so I'm going to show you how to use that. Of course, I have our zipper tool to help put our slider onto our zipper tape. And I have a piece of ribbon here, and I have a long piece of ribbon, and it's probably about a yard and a half. It's a big piece of ribbon. The fabric that we're going to be using to make our scrunchy part of I'm going to pull that out so you can see. We got a scrunchy part to our bag. This is a scrunchy strap that I've created. So you're going to need, you're using that black 3-inch fabric that's in it. So you're going to need this to be longer than that. So what, 42? So about a yard and a half of a ribbon. And I'm going to show you how this is going to work in turning out that tube so much quicker. So grab a piece of ribbon or some cording that you'd be able to use. It'll make it so much easier when we go to turn our tube when we make that. All right, so let's get everything started. So I'm going to pull out the pattern that we have. And the cutting instructions for both the canvas and the lining fabric is exactly the same. So you're going to be sure, before you start, get everything all pressed nice and flat. Get all the wrinkles out because it gets folded up in our box and they get a little wrinkled. So you want to get all of that completely smoothed out. And then we're going to go ahead and get started on putting all of this together. Get a lot of these things out of my way. That might be a good place to pause right here. Okay. So I am everything's all over the place. Is this mine I'm using? Yeah, okay. Get all these out. You ready to jump back in? Okay, so we're going to get started on getting all of our fabrics prepped for our cutting. So you're going to be cutting your lining and your exterior fabric the exact same. So once you get it all pressed, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take your fabric, and I do have a piece right here. I'm going to start with my lining. I'm going to show you using it. Once you have your lining pressed, then you're going to look at where it says I have 3 different things that we're going to do first. First one is that we're going to cut 10 inches off of this piece right here because we're going to make a couple of components in this bag with this one. So I'm going to take my fabric, I'm going to line it up on my mat, and we're going to cut 10 inches off of this. So grab a ruler, and we're going to knock off the 10 inches. Because we take this piece and it gets broken down into a couple other components. You're going to do this to both the lining and your canvas. So set that aside. So we're going to take that 10-inch piece, we're going to open it up, and on one side you're going to cut one rectangle that is 8 inches. So we already know it's 10 inches, so we're going to cut. I'm going to remove my selvage off the one side, just taking that little bit off this one side. And then we're going to cut a 10-inch piece, or excuse me, an 8-inch piece. So this will be our first rectangle. It will be 8 by 10. Once you have this cut, then you're going to set that aside. And then with this last piece that we have right here, you're going to cut these into 2 17-inch pieces, and then you're going to trim them down. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go to 17 inches here. It should be right at the 17. And then taking my last piece, lining it up, and I'm going to take it and measure that to 17 inches. So that one strip, you should just have a little bit that's left over, depending on what fabric you're using and the width of the fabric. So then you're going to take these 2 pieces that were the 10 by 17, and you're going to trim those down again. These become the pockets that's on the inside. This, the big 8 by 10 piece, is part of our lining for our hidden pocket. These 2 pieces are the 2 inside pockets. So we trimmed this piece down. Now we have them both at 17 inches. We're going to trim off a side of this at 7.5 inches. So we're cutting a 2.5-inch strip off of it. And we do not need this piece. So off of that one strip, an 8 by 10, and 2 7.5 by 17, and then set those aside. The next thing we're going to do is with the remaining fabric that we have, so this is the remaining piece that we have left over right here. You're going to line up the cut edges. So we're going to take this remaining piece and we're going to fold it, lining up cut to cut like this. And this is where we're going to be using it to do our template, to place our template on here. So the cut lines are all the cuts. So we've got the selvage, we've got the fold on this end. Now you're going to piece together your hobo bag template, and you're going to set it on here. This large, long area is going to go right here on the fold, and then you're going to go ahead and get it pieced together. So all of this is lining up on what is a double fold right here, because we folded a folded piece of fabric in half. So we got a double fold here. And this is what we're going to be cutting out to make our bag right here. So once you have it positioned on here, then we're going to go ahead and cut this out. And again, you're going to be cutting out 2. So you can use your regular 45 or you can use a 28, but very carefully cut this off, cut across, and then you're going to cut down You're going to be coming up to where the two pieces meet, but just keep on going. Kind of turning it around as I go. Get all that. And then the little piece right here, we're going to be cutting this. This is our dart. And then we're going to get the other side. Now, here's something I need to tell you when you're doing the lining piece. On the lining piece, and it's going to be on here for the pocket placement. You don't have to put this mark on for the exterior fabric, you know, the canvas. You're going to put it onto the lining piece. So this is where you're going to mark the bottom of the pocket placement. So with a pencil, with a marker, or with your scissors or whatever, you're going to just mark it. So what I'm going to do, I see my line right here. I'm just lifting it up a little bit, and I'm just kind of drawing a line on the top one because I'm going to notch that spot right there. That's important to get that line placement so that it all lines up when we go sewing it all together. Once you have that done, before you unfold it, you're going to go ahead and mark your center top here. So I just notch out a little bitty piece on the top, and I'm going to find my center on the bottom. Notch out a little corner out of that. Get it a little bit bigger. So I can see where my centers are here. So now before I open it up, I see where's my pencil mark right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut through all the layers, and I'm going to create my little notch right here, so that I know where the bottom of pocket placement is going to be. So I notched it there. So when you get that done with the lining, all those pieces right there, open up, it's all ready. You have your top center, bottom center, and your pocket placements on each side. Now you're going to do that exact same thing when you go to cut out all the pieces for your exterior piece. Now with this little piece right here, we still have to use our tab. We got to cut out our tab. We got to cut out one with the lining, and we got to cut out one with the exterior fabric. So that little piece of fabric that we use to cut out the center with, you could even use this for a pocket if you wanted this to be your hidden pocket. But we're using a part of it. We only need a part of it to be for our placement for our tab. So you cut out one from both the lining and the exterior fabric. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. All right, so then before you pick it up with your pencil, go ahead and on the line, let's see, it's the lining, let me see, I make sure I get it right. Yeah, so on the lining fabric, this is where we're going to do our dot for our snap placement. So there's my little dot. So when we go to put our snap in, I know that's where the spot that I need for it to be. So again, you're going to do that for the lining and for the exterior. You don't need the dot on the exterior, just on that lining piece. So once you have all of those cut out, you're going to have two pieces for your lining, two pieces for your exterior done. And I have them right here. I got my two exterior pieces. You'll have two lining pieces. You'll have two fabrics for your tabs. You're going to have your exterior tab and your lining tab. And then you're going to have your two pocket pieces. These are your 8x10s. And you will have two sets of the 17 by 7.5. You'll have a lining, you'll have two linings, and you'll have two of the exteriors. So you'll have four pieces for total of your interior pockets. So that is all the cutting that we have to do. And be sure to mark your centers on all of them. I think on the actual pockets, so when I grab these pocket pieces right here, go ahead and fold those in half and mark your centers top and bottom. You'll be needing those a little bit later. So I just take a little notch on one side and then I notch it on the other. I got this one already notched. So you're going to notch your linings and you're going to notch your exterior fabric. So everything, you need to have your centers. It's going to be important. You're going to be using these throughout. So let's mark the centers on this one. On your tab pieces, you're going to fold them in half and you're going to notch out the bottom part of this one. That's going to be a guide for a little bit later. So we're going to notch our lining, get it notched out. This is just all prep work that you're going to need to do. And then on our large, long pieces for our, I don't think you need to notch these for our pockets because we're getting ready to sew those. So you don't need to notch the long pockets. All right, so let's do the next step. So there is a lot of prep work to get to the sewing. So in here, I go through all of these steps on creating the interior pockets, creating the snap tab, creating the exterior zipper pocket, adding the magnetic strap, creating the scrunchie strap. I have all of these different steps. But to make it easier, one of the things that you could do is go ahead and get a lot of this prep work done, and then you just go to the sewing machine and you do a lot of sewing. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to take your pocket, which is the long pockets, the 7.5 by 17. Grab those two pieces, and you're going to go ahead and place those right sides together. So let me go grab them right here. So get your 17.5 by 17, get both of those pieces, get your lining piece and your exterior piece, put them right sides together, both sets, clip them, then set them aside because we're going to do all of our sewing at the same time. So we'll do that one. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our snap tab ready. So you're going to get the two pieces, go ahead and get your lining piece and install your tab onto that one, or your snap onto that one. You're going to put the non-magnetic snap onto this one right here. So this one I already have it done. So I've got my non-magnetic snap onto the lining piece. Then you're going to take your exterior piece and your lining piece and you're going to place them right sides together. So be like this, right sides together. And then you're going to go ahead and put a clip or two in that. And we're going to set this one aside. So this one's ready to go for our sewing. Then we're going to get the exterior zipper pocket ready. So let's go ahead and get that started. So now you're going to grab your two 8 by 10 pieces. You don't need this piece yet, so take your exterior piece, set it aside. You're going to grab that. You're going to have the lining piece. And you're going to grab one of your exterior bag pieces. That's this one right here. I got it right here. We're going to get this one prepped for all of our sewing. So we're on the back side of our instructions and we're creating the exterior zipper pocket. So we're going to start with the sewing part of it. So taking your piece that's already cut out, you got your centers here. I want you to take your piece and you're going to line it up on one of the lines on your mat. There's your center. And you're going to have the top part right here up on a line. You need to, on this piece, measure down 1.5 inches and you're going to draw a line. So measure down 1.5 inches from this top, 1.5 inches down, and with your chalk or disappearing ink or whatever, you're going to mark that. You're going to draw a line across. That's going to help us in finding our zipper placement. Go ahead and also mark that center. So lining up my ruler from the notch to notch, I'm only needing to put a little line crossing the line that's going across. I don't know if you can see that, but I've got my chalk line going across and I got my little line right here telling me where center is. So once you have that done on this piece, then you're going to set this aside for just a minute. Now you're going to get your lining, your 8 by 10 lining piece out. and we're going to start getting everything done on it for our zipper to start our hidden zipper placement. So the first thing that you're going to do, I'm just centering it on my mat. I'm taking a look at the instructions. It tells us first to draw a line all the way across. So you're going to, with the lining, right side down. So be sure you have the right side. It's kind of hard to tell, but we want the right side down. So on the wrong side, you're going to be drawing some lines. And I have this one already done, so I'm going to show it to you. So here's what we're drawing. We're creating this image right here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to measure down 1.5 inches down, and you're going to draw this line right here. So taking it from here, here's 1.5 inches. So you're going to draw a line all the way across 1.5 inches down. So I did that with a pencil because this is never seen. So 1.5 inches down, or if you have a 1.5 inch ruler like I have right here, 1.5 inches down, you're going to draw a line all the way across. Then you're going to draw another line. The second line that we're going to draw is this one right here. So we drew this one, that's 1.5 inches down. The second line is 2.25 inches down. I actually have a 2.25 inch ruler, and so I did it. So this is going to be a wider zipper than normally. A lot of people, the zippers are only about 3/8 to 1/2 inch. Ours is 3/4 of an inch because I really wanted to showcase the pretty gold zipper tape that we're using on this one. So these two lines, this one and this one, is going to be 3/4 of an inch apart. 3/4 of an inch apart. So I have those lines going all the way across. That's going to be our stitch line. So the next thing we're going to do on each end, from the outer ends, you're going to measure in 1 inch. And then you're going to draw a line going over those two lines. So just going to draw, you drew horizontal lines, now you're going to draw vertical lines. And on the other side, same thing, 1 inch in, you're going to draw another line. So now you should have what looks like a box. To create the rest, we're going to go ahead and get that done while we have it in front of us. 3/8 of an inch down from this line, you're going to draw another line across. 3/8 of an inch down. So it's going to be dead center. 3/8. So it's 3/4 of an inch, half of 3/4 of an inch, or 6/8 is 3/8. So 3/8, you're going to draw that center line. Now we're going to draw another line. You've got your vertical lines here and here, but you're not drawing a line, you're going to draw a dot. 1/2 inch over from this, or 1.5 inches from the edge, or 1/2 inch from this vertical line, you're going to place a dot here, and you're going to place a dot here. 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch in. And then you're going to draw a line from that dot to the corner of the rectangle box that you've made. What we just created, these pieces, is our cut lines. We're going to sew this box, and then we're going to be cutting this, cutting here, here, cutting here and here. No cutting here and here, only this action, but you'll see. So once we get this part drawn on our lining, now we'll go back to our exterior piece that we have our line going across. You're going to take this piece, and now you're going to, the top line is going to be along the line that you drew with your chalk or pencil, and that little notch that we have centered right here. Remember we put that little cross notch down the center, so that's what we're lining it up to right here. So now our zipper is centered onto our bag. Once you have that done, then I want you to go ahead and pin this down. Can't use clips here, so we're going to put some pins in it. I'm going to put a pin on top, so I'm going to put a pin over here side, because we'll be sewing this rectangle. This right here is what we're going to be sewing. So I'm placing my pins far enough away so they're not going to be hit with the foot, but it's securing this piece to the exterior part of our bag. So just dropping some pins in it. Once you have that done, now we're going to take this and we're going to set this aside because that's all about the sewing, all sewing right there. All right, so the next thing is we're going to go ahead and grab our, let me see, I think we grab our other exterior piece. Get your other exterior piece out. We're going to go ahead and install the magnetic part or the larger piece of our magnetic snap onto this one right here. So you're going to take this one right here, and from center, you're going to measure down 2 1/4 inches. So just like we did before, you're going to line this up on your mat, and you're going to find a line that you can measure 2 1/4 inches down, and then you're going to put that dot. And then you're going to go ahead and install your magnetic part, the larger part of your snap onto this piece right here. Once you have that done, then you're going to take this piece and you're going to set it over here in our sewing pile. And I think that's all the big prep work. I think that, nope, one more thing. The last one to get ready. Now this is where you're going to grab your long black strip. This is your 3-inch strip. And you don't even need to iron this because, unless it's really, really wrinkly, because we're going to be sewing this and making our tube. So this is where you're going to have your long strip and where you're going to grab your long ribbon. So what we're going to do to get this strap easily done is we're going to fold it where it's going to be sewn along the long edge. But there's a little prep work. You're going to be sewing your ribbon inside of this so that it'll be so much easier to pull our tube. So I take my piece and I'm looking at, we're going to be putting it right sides together. So I just take it and I fold it, and I'm keeping my selvage on here. My selvage is still here, so I'm just going to give it a finger press right here on this edge, just here in the center, just finger pressing it. Because I want to have my ribbon, it's going to be resting at that crease. So I'm going to go ahead and fold the ribbon on the inside, like I've just done right here, and I'm going to grab a clip and I'm just going to hold it. But we're going to sew across, and then we're going to sew all the way down. And as we're sewing this down, we're going to keep this ribbon centered inside our tube as we're sewing it all the way down, and it'll come out on the other end, and it'll be so much easier. So I just get this part ready to go for when we're going to sew across, and then all the way down for turning this one. All right, so I think that's all of our big prep work that we can do on all of this. So I think we're going to start with creating the interior pockets, because when we do the interior pockets, we got to get both of those sewed, flip back out, and top stitched before we can even attach them to the lining pieces. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to grab my lining pieces. And you're going to get your 2 pieces for your, let's see, I'm trying to find my lining piece that's not sewn here. Here we are. So we're going to get these out. We got these ready to go. So let's go ahead. We'll go to the sewing machine, and we're going to go ahead and start getting our sewing done. So the first one I start with is the very first one that we had put together, and that was our large interior pockets, because we got to get our lining ready to go for when we go put it all together. So let's go over to the sewing machine and let's just get some sewing done, because this is where a lot of the prep work done to get all of our sewing created. All right, so let's pull out our pockets. You'll have 2 of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew on one side, and then we're going to sew the other side on both sets. And then we're going to turn it right side out, press it, and then we're going to top stitch it on one side. We don't have to top stitch one side. All right, so I have my machine set up to a 1/4 inch. Had to get her on, get it all ready to go. And we're just going to do a 1/4 inch on both sides. You don't even really have to back tack because it's going to be all in the seam, so you won't even see it. So just stitch it all the way down 1/4 inch. And you could chain piece them. You get the first one done and then just go to the next one and get that side done and then flip it all around and do the other side. Okay, so get both of those done. Before we go to all the mess of sewing of the other things, let's just go ahead and get our pockets done because we got some more sewing that we have to do. So you're going to take your pieces, you're going to go to your ironing station, you're going to turn them right side out, and you're going to give them a good press. So if you have your turning tool or something to give it a good press out, you're going to press those seams out, and then we're going to press it and we're going to just top stitch one side of it. All right, get my turning tool or something to help push the seams out a little bit. So it just lays just a little bit flatter. Right, we're going to press it. And press the other side. Push it out a little bit better. And if you want, while you have it right here at this position, you could fold it in half and find your center. Kind of mark it. I like to fold it in half, find my center, because I'm going to be using that center to create our pockets. Because we're going to be stitching 2.5 inches on both sides, draw these lines. But let's go ahead and get our first stitch, top stitch done. You're going to do this on both of them. You're just going to top stitch one side, because the bottom gets, when we're stitching across the bottom, when it's on our lining, that's going to close the other side. So that way you don't have to have a double row of stitching. All right, so I'm just going to raise my stitch length up, and we're going to do about 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to go all the way across. All right, you're going to do that to both pieces. So once you have that done, then we're going to go ahead and get this onto our lining. So grabbing one of your lining pieces, on the right side of the lining piece, I have it right here in front of me. I see my center. Here's my marks for my bottom of my pocket placement. So this is where this is going to be going. So I drew that crease. I created that little crease in here so I can find my center. And I'm bringing this to where the bottom of my pocket is right there in that center notch, in the notch right here and here. And this is wider than our lining. And we want it to be lighter than our lining. So once you have it laid on here, I don't think clips are going to work here. So you're going to possibly put some pins in. You're going to just kind of pin it to hold it into place. I'm putting a couple pins here, and I'm going to put a pin on the side. But we'll be taking those out before we do our next step of sewing this. So I'm putting a pin here. And let's put a pin right here. So now we're going to do some more marking. While we have this laying on our table in front of us, And I've got my center line right here. I see where my center is. Now I got to draw 2 more lines. So from center, you're going to measure out 2.5 inches from center. I actually have my little 2.5 inch ruler right here. So I'm going to place this on one side along that center line. And I'm going to put a chalk line right here on the opposite side. That's a stitch line for the pocket. And then I'm going to do that for the other side. So from center, I'm going to draw another line right here. So that's 2.5 inches. So now we got a 5-inch pocket here, and then this pocket that's going to go from here to the edge. And I think that's just shy of 5 inches on here. So you can make these pockets whatever size that you want them to be, but we've got 3 on one side and 3 on the other. So once you get this done for both of your lining pieces, then we're going to do some more stitching. So we're going to stitch this right here, and then we're going to stitch here and here. Then we're going to flip it over, and we're going to baste stitch here and here, and then this gets trimmed away. So we're going to get this done for both of our lining pieces next. So first thing first, let's do our stitch that's going across. Now I don't make this a basting stitch. I think I bring my stitch down to like 2.2. Make it just a little bit more. I go ahead and put my needle in center. I raise this up to 2.2, and we're going to stitch this down along this edge. You know, I think I'm going to keep it on that quarter because I'm about 1/8 of an inch in is how I'm doing it. And you don't need to back tack, just start at the ends, just sewing all the way across, because again, this is going to be caught in the seam. All right, got that all the way across. Now we're going to go ahead and stitch our pocket part. Put my needle in center. Looking where the line is here, I'm going to go a couple stitches forward, a couple stitches back. And I'm going to stitch on both of the lines that we drew to make our pockets. All right, now we're going to flip it over. So you can go ahead and take out these side pins for right now. So everything is pretty much being held in place. Now we're going to flip it over. Smoothing everything out. You're going to see where the side of the bag is to your lining. You're going to stitch right here. This is just a basting stitch to hold this all in place instead of having lots and lots of clips and pins. So we're going to do a basting stitch right here about 1/8 of an inch in. So I'm going to raise my stitch length all the way up. We're just going to go along that side, stitching, securing the pocket to the lining. Once you get one side done, do the other. Just basting it down. Okay. And since you're at your sewing machine at this point, we can go ahead and sew our little pleats together. So putting it right back onto our regular stitching, you're going to take the right sides, put them right sides together. We're going to go ahead and sew up our pleats. Since once we get that done, we'll be done with this lining piece. We'll do it to the other lining piece also. So 1/4 of an inch, back tack beginning, sew off, and back tack at the end. Do it on both sides. And do a little lick and stick to get things moving. Pushing everything, lining up our edge there, and just going to go ahead and stitch that down, creating our little pleat. And once you're done, you do that to both of your lining pieces, and this one is all ready to go. So we're going to set that aside. We got to do it on both of them. Now we're going to grab our tab piece. We're going to go ahead and get it sewed. So we're just going to stitch all the way around the exterior right here. We're just going to stitch a quarter. Do not stitch this bottom part right here. Leave this open. But we're going to do a 1/4 inch all the way around. And I kind of take my time on this because I want it to be a nice, smooth, rounded angle. So just stitching it carefully. I like to do this with my lining up so I can see my snap right here. And we're just going to take our time going smoothly around the tab. Now you're going to want to either clip the curve or get your pinking scissors, and I just like to just with my pinking shears or clip that curve. I'm just going to catch the curved part. Going to catch that little bit right there. And then we're going to turn it right side out. You can take it to iron, give it an ironing. You can do a good finger press, but we're going to go ahead and get it top stitched while we're at our machine. So I'm pushing it out. Rolling everything out. You can iron this. I think I just take it and I just press everything out, and then I'm going to get my top stitch done. So give it a good push to make it nice and smooth, making sure it looks nice and smooth on the right side. So I'm looking for a nice, smooth, rounded look to it. Don't press too hard. You don't want to poke through it. And while we're at our machine, we're going to go ahead and top stitch all the way around. So we're going to raise my stitch length up to around 3.5, 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I take my time on this one and make it so it doesn't, keep it pretty even. Because my snap is right there, really close. If you have a narrower foot, you might want to use a narrower foot for this. And then, and down. Once you have it top stitched, this piece is complete. So you're going to take it and you're going to set it aside. Let's go to the piece that has our zipper on it. The one piece right here that you put your snap in, go ahead and do your, why we set this one over here, it's because you're going to create your, on the exterior piece, go ahead and sew your pleats on this one. Then once this is done, you're going to set that aside. Now we're going to go to our exterior piece that has our pocket. So we're going to create our exterior pocket. We're going to get this one sewed. So what we're going to do, again, we're just going to sew that rectangle. So again, we're just stitching the rectangle. It's a 3/4 of an inch rectangle, 1 inch on each side, 1.5 inches, 2.25 inches, these two right here. All right, so anywhere you're going to start. So this is where I put my needle back to center, and I'm just going to stitch right there on that line that we created, that long rectangle. Give it a little tiny back tack, and we're just going to go all the way around it. When you get to the edge, do not go beyond it. Just get right to that next line, rotate, and then stitch down. Be sure to stop on the line and then stitch the next part. And right to the edge. One more stitch. Rotate. One more stitch. Last rotation and coming back to where we started. How easy was that? So once you have that done, we're going to set that aside for just a minute. Now we're going to grab our strap right here. This is our piece that's going to be our scrunchie strap. So you clipped your ribbon or cord or whatever that you're using here into that fold. Now we're going to stitch across anywhere, just stitch across, and then you're going to stitch 1/4 inch all the way down. So we're just kind of holding everything with our little ribbon in there, putting it back on my 1/4 inch, and just stitching across and going over that ribbon. Stitching all the way across. So now my ribbon is secured in here. Now I'm just lining up my fabric, lining up the edges, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch down, all the way down. And we are going to, as we're going to be taking our ribbon, we're going to keeping it tucked on the inside, and then just kind of folding over our material so that our ribbon stays along the fold, not over here where we're stitching. So I kind of do this in little sections. I'm sliding that ribbon into the center, folding over my fabric, and stitching down. Just continuing to fold it over, keeping the ribbon centered. Last little leg right here. Kind of pinching it, holding it, and sewing that 1/4 inch. Up right there. A little bubble. Okay, so once you have it stitched all the way down, then you're going to, this is where I find it where a pencil works really well for this. Go into the side where you actually had sewed the ribbon down, kind of open this up, and you're going to kind of push it in. So grabbing a pencil that has like an elastic on it, you're going to just kind of push it in. You're kind of getting it started. You're just pushing it into itself. That little pencil with the rubber eraser on it just kind of helps gets it started for you. And you can slide it down a little bit if you want. But once you have it to just so far, doesn't matter, then you can grab your ribbon and just start pulling. You can go ahead and pull your pencil out and just start pulling. You're going to find it's just going to now just slide right through to get it all the way out to the other side. Now, how easy is that to do this in narrow tube? Quick, quick, quick. All right, so then the only thing left is you're going to just kind of clip this off. So I roll it out as much as I can, and then I'm literally going to trim it right below that seam. I might have a little bit of my ribbon that gets trimmed. but this will never be seen. This is all going to be hidden inside the bag once we get it sewed. So this is completely done. So now you got your tube done, you've got it turned out, and we will go to the next step of finishing this. All right, so once we have this, we're going to grab our pieces that we've just got done sewing, and we're going to come back over here to our cutting station. I'm going to start with our lining piece that we had sewn our long pocket on. And we're going to trim away this excess part of the pocket that's overhanging. So I'm just grabbing my rotary cutter or some scissors, and I'm just following the edge of our body part of the main of the piece right here. We're just following along that seam. We're going to do it on both sides, and then you'll do that to both pieces. So you'll have both of your linings now done with the pocket on here. Once you have those done, just set those aside. You got your pleats sewn, you got your pockets on here. This is all ready to go. So we're going to set that aside. We're going to now get this is our piece that we just sewed our rectangle. So now we're going to cut on that line. So I just go ahead and get my rotary cutter, and I just kind of start it. We're cutting through all the layers here. Once I get it started, then I'm going to go ahead and cut. You're cutting through both materials. You're going to cut all the way to that point right here. Then you're going to follow that angled line to your stitches, but do not, you're going to go right to the corner, just don't cut your stitches. You're going to do it on both sides. Right to the edge. And then we're going to do the other side. Just cutting on the line till you get to the point or to the dot. And you're going to angle over to that corner and then this corner. All right, that's good to go. Take your pins out. So now you're going to grab your tab piece, and this tab piece is going to be stitched onto here. So don't lose it, just keep it with you, because this piece is going to be stitched onto here once we get this part of the zipper done. What we're going to be working on right now is doing our zipper. So this is the fun part. So before we go to tuck this in, we're going to go ahead and press it here and here. So let's go to the iron station, and we're going to get this pressed. Okay, so now here's where we just stitched it down. So I'm going to take the bottom part and I'm going to push it up, and I'm going to press it right here. You're going to find this will make it easier and look nicer by taking the time to do this little press here and taking this piece and folding it down and pressing it on this side too. Because we're getting ready to push this fabric in through that hole. So once you get the top and bottom done, you can even do the sides if you want. You're going to push the fabric through, flip over to the wrong side, and you're going to be pulling your pocket lining through there. So now we're going to be working on getting it nice and smooth here and here, and pulling this, making it nice and smooth here, and we're going to be pressing again, get it nice and smooth. So just kind of pushing it, you're kind of maneuvering it, manipulating it a little bit to create this nice smooth opening, because then we're going to be putting our zipper in. Kind of grabbing it and tugging on it a little bit, pushing everything down. Getting the top part, making it nice and smooth, pressing that, and then pulling the sides over and pressing that to make it nice and flat. You can add a little steam here. We're just smoothing everything out for your pocket. So now you see where your pocket's going to be. This is your interior of your pocket. So I'm wanting this to kind of hold a little bit better. I'm going to put a little water steam right there. And get that to shape a little bit better for me. Once I get that done, I'm going to flip it over. Well, I haven't done my pleats on this one. I like to do the pleats at the very end once I have my pocket in on this piece here. So smoothing everything out. Now our next step is to get our zipper part done. So I'm going to leave this piece right here for a minute because we're going to do it here at the ironing station. But let's go back over to cutting station and let's get our zipper tape out and get our zipper pull. This is our zipper slider. Now we need to get this installed onto our zipper tape. All right, so you're going to take your zipper slider, place it in right side down. You're going to take your zipper tape, open it up 2 or 3 inches, then right side down. For me, I find it easiest if I kind of grab both of these pieces from the outside in, and I'm going to slide them into the zipper teeth slider, and just like that, got my zipper now installed. Then I'm going to fold this in half. I like to mark my centers on the edge. I don't know if it's needed for this, but I'm going to go ahead and put my little mark here. Put a little cut line, tiniest little cut line, mark my centers here. So here's my zipper tape. So now we're going to put it onto our piece. So you could use some pins, but I have found using the 1/4 inch tape is so much easier, and I'm going to show you how to use the 1/4 inch tape for this one. So I want my zipper going in which direction. You can decide which direction that you want it to be, and it's going to be going underneath here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to split this back over. Now I've got to or need to install my tape. So I'm just grabbing my 1/4 inch tape, cutting off a big old piece and going all the way across. And I am just positioning this right here on the edge. Now this is double-sided zipper, double-sided tape. You can get this online. I've seen all different places that you can pick up this tape. So first I just lay it here. I'm going to put, I found this was so much easier to do with this technique is to use this tape here. And I'm bringing it all the way to the end because my zipper tape is going to go all the way to the end. You can put a little piece here. I think I'll do that. I want it to be smaller. Put a piece here, and then I'm going to put a little piece on the other side. Now I don't know if I'm doing this right or wrong, but this is how I do it. So just get this in between. So now I'm going to get this on here. I've got it positioned on where I want it. I'm going to give it a little heat to set it down before I pull off the backing for it. Right, so once you have it set, or on the tape that you're using, the next step is to peel off this little bit right here. You're going to peel the exterior part off. So I just kind of score it, get it started, and just peel off the paper part. And so now my sticky part is right there on here. Score it a little bit, and then lift it up. This one's not wanting to stick to it. There we go. And it's really sticky. Sticky, sticky. Now, one thing I forgot to do is we need to stitch our ends of our zipper. So let's go to the sewing machine, let's get that done first. Before we do anything, I like to go ahead and secure the zipper on each end. So on both sides, about 1/2 inch in, I want you to stitch across to secure that zipper. So we're going to do that first. And we're just going to go across a couple times, about 1/2 inch or so in. Should have done that once we got the zipper pull on, and you want to be sure to secure the zipper. And we're going to be going back over it again, so if you forget that part, it's still going to be stitched in when we're going all the way around. But I just like to add that extra bit of protection on there. So before I want to make sure I have my zipper going in the direction I want it to be. Now we're going to take your zipper tape, and you're going to set it down in here. And I am looking for it to be pretty centered. Now it's really, the zipper tape is about the same width as the pocket, so I'm looking to center it on here, but this is just temporarily holding it down for just a second. I've got it from edge to edge, all the way across, then I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to see how I like it. I'm going to make sure that my zipper is centered into our opening here. And if I'm liking that position that it is in right here, without having to do any adjusting, then the only thing we have left to do is now we're going to top stitch, or we're going to sew a stitch all the way around, and it's going to secure, again, it's going to secure that zipper on the sides, but it's going to be all nice and pretty in there. So do you see how easy it is when using the double-sided tape versus having to pin all this to hold it down in place? And you just press it onto the tape, and it's movable. If I feel like this is down just a little bit too low, then I can pop it up and reposition it to get it to where I want it to be. And you can get it, you can move it around with the tape without having to pin it. So now we're going to top stitch all the way around this right here. This is where you can use your regular foot, or you can grab your zipper foot. I found with the zipper foot it was a little bit easier, but we're just wanting to get all the way around this edge. So I'm going to just keep my regular foot on here. I'm going to drop my foot down. I'm going to go, since I'm using a black thread, I'm going to find a spot that is, where I got black that's going to be on the edge, and I got this spot right here. So I'm going to slide my zipper up. I'm going to start my sewing right here in this black line that's right here. Because this is, you're going to do some back tacking. So I'm dropping my foot down, but that doesn't mean that's where I want my needle to be. So I'm going to adjust my needle to a position that I want it to be. On this one, I have it at 3. So my foot's going to guide along this edge, and I've got my needle positioned on where I want it to be. And we're going to stitch all the way around. I'm raising my stitch length up a little bit. And I'm going to go a couple stitches forward, couple stitches back. And because I did it in that little section of black, you're not really going to see that. And we're going to just take our time and go all the way around. Rotate. Now when I go over the zipper, I go backwards, and then I go over. I do a little bit more of a tacking stitches on each end. So drop my foot, we're going to go forward a couple of stitches, go over the zipper teeth. And then I'm going to go backwards, and I'm going to stay right there in the stitches that I just did, taking it slow, and then going back forward again, staying in that same stitches. It's just going to add a little bit more strength there on the end. And now we're going to come down the other side. Slide my zipper down. Coming up on the other side where we're going to go the same as what we did on one end. And then carefully go over and then backwards. And just an extra bit of security right there. Staying in that stitch length. And going back over again. And then we're going to go right back to where we started. And do a little back tack right here. And there you go, you just got your zipper installed. How cool is that? So now we're going to trim our little bitty thread we got right there. Now we're going to finish the pocket part. So this is so easy. Y'all ready? How fun is this? Now we're going to grab our 8x10 of our exterior piece. And this is where we're going to now be able to create or finish that pocket. So remember we had cut our little halfway mark. So we're going to go ahead and line it up on our notches. Right sides to right sides. So this is right side down, and we're going to stitch all the way around, about 1/4 inch all the way around. So to do that, you're just going to have the line or the exterior piece just out of your way to stitch. You're going to stitch here. Then when you get to the corner, you're going to stitch down. You're going to move it out of the way again, stitch here, and then finishing up the last row right here. So we're going to go ahead and get this stitched. Super, super easy to make this pocket. You can clip this all together, but I just kind of follow and guide my notches. Again, this is an interior pocket. It's never really seen, but you will not see it once you get it all sewed. So I'm going to just do about 1/4 inch or so. Nope, hold on. Got to reset my machine back to that 1/4 inch. Let's take that out. All right, it's 1/4 inch or more all the way around. So lining up your edges and just stitch. Now you're going to be going over your zipper again right here. So you can go back over your zipper tape once you go over it. And then just continue going all the way down. I always do back tacking at the bottom of pockets because that's where things seem to come apart, just to give it a little bit more strength. I do that at the corners. And last side up. We're going to go back over your zipper. So this is where you can back tack it again. And right where we started. And now when you open it up, now that you've got it all sewed, you can see your exterior fabric right there. How cute is that? Once you have that done, then you're going to go ahead and finish this one up. We're going to go ahead and put our right sides together and get our pleats sewed. So on our 1/4 inch, get the pleats down on this one. And then on the other side. Right sides together, matching up your edges. And sewing your pleat. All right, so before you finish, now we're going to go ahead and put our tab on here. So get your little tab. It's already marked with your half, where you've marked it for your center. So you're going to line it up right there on that center, right sides together like this. And we're going to just do a basting stitch right here just to hold it down. Get your threads out of the way, or you can go ahead and trim that off. Lining up this mark for your center with the center mark here. And we're just basting this like we did the pockets on the lining. We're just going to hold it down in place right here on the edge. And that's all we're doing on that part. All right, so we got that done. So right now at this point you should have your pocket done for your hidden pocket done for your exterior piece. On your other exterior piece you have your 2 pleats that are done for it, and you've got your snap already installed. Your lining pieces should now have both of the pockets already on here, and you've got your edges already sewed here. So we are pretty much at the point where we go to put it all together. But before we can do that, we need to finish our strap. Okay, so now we're going to finish up with our strap. So grabbing your webbing, your 1-inch webbing, I believe it is about 14 and a half inches long. It could be, I think in the instructions I have it being 14 inches long. So you're going to grab your locking tweezers. I found that this really helps in threading this through our strap. So I'm just going to set it on the end, squeeze it, I'm going to lock it down into place. So I'm holding this, this is going to hold this. This is what I'm going to be using to thread it through our strap that we had sewn. So you're just going to find one end, get one end, and you're going to slip your strapping into here. And I'm going to first go to where I have it all the way pushed down to where I match up the edge, in this case, the edge of my webbing with the edge of my strap, where the strap is actually the selvage part of it. This is going to be hidden. So I'm just lining it up right here on the edge. And I got my seam centered. And I'm going to stitch across right here. We're going to stitch this down before we go any further. So let's get this stitched. Stitch this down. It's just going to hold it into place for us. So I'm going to go back and forth a couple times just to hold it into place. Now we're going to go ahead and find our tweezer, and we're just going to kind of grab the tweezer as we're sliding it down, and then we're going to be sliding the fabric down the strap. Just kind of pulling it, sliding it down. Be careful to not undo your locking tweezer as you're doing this. Just sliding it down. You're creating that scrunchy look to your strap. Sliding it down to where you can get a little bit more. Sliding it down. It'll be kind of a tight fit, but you're just going to keep working it till you get to the end. You need to make sure you stay at that 1/4 inch. If you go less, it's going to be harder to get it in here. I found a place where I had bobbled just a little bit, so it's getting a little tight right here. You're looking for that other end. And when you get to the other end, you're going to line it up in center like we did on the other end. You're going to look, make sure that it's not twisted around. I'm going to undo my locking tweezer, have it centered on the edge here, and I'm going to go ahead and secure it on this end. And then we're going to just kind of move our little pleats around. I'm going to keep it smooth on this end. This gets tucked in, and this side gets tucked in. So once you have this done, set this aside because we don't need this for right now. Now we're going to go back to all of our pieces to go ahead and start the construction part of it. So we're going to take our 2 lining pieces, and you're just going to put them right sides together, and we're going to stitch this down, stitch it on all around the outside perimeter of the lining. So you're going to line up your, I like to start by lining up my pivots, my pockets first. So I'm lining up the bottom of my pockets here, here. Once I have them lined up, I'm going to put a clip into here, hold it, and then I'll line up the top of the pockets, clip that here, clip it, and then you go follow it all the way up to the top of the strap. We'll put a clip in here. Go to our little pleats here, kind of get those nested into there. Clip there. Clip the pockets on both sides. Clip this one. Same thing, you're just going to line it up all your outer edges. Everything all clipped, and then you're going to stitch all the way around. We'll go ahead and get this side clipped, and we're going to go ahead and get our lining clipped. Same thing with the lining, we're going to right sides together. I start with the pleats, I think, on this one because that's seen. So I'm going to mark, center my pleats, kind of get those pleats nested. There's no right or wrong direction for it, just nesting them a little bit kind of helps it all fit together. Find my center marked. I'm going to put a pin here or clip it here. Then I'm going to come all the way up to the top of my straps. And we're going to clip it all the way around, matching up all of our curves. And we're going to sew both of these all the way around. Now when we sew the lining though, we leave an opening at the bottom, at that straight edge. So with this piece, we're going to stitch all the way around the exterior, this outer edge. Get that stitched for the lining, get that stitched for the exterior and then for the lining. But on the lining, you need to leave an opening. So here's where my center is. So about 2.5 to 3 inches on both sides of center. I'm going to put my red clip here, red clip here. That's where I know is my start and stop. So I'm stitching all the way down to this point, stop, back tack, start, finish all the way over to the other side. So we're going to get these two stitched here. We are so close to being on the finish line on this part right here. All right, so let's get this all sewed. And this is all just a regular 1/4 inch. We're going to get our lining done, leave our opening. Keep my pinky shears because you've got to trim your curves. And it's just a 1/4 inch all the way around. Start that again. Now another thing that I like to do is when I get to the point where I have my top of my pockets, I like to do a back tack right there. I'll back tack at the top of the pocket because there's always going to be some pull onto that area there. Now some people say that you're supposed to sew bags at a 1/2 inch or wider than a 1/4 inch, and that is your preference. If you want to have it to be a wider seam allowance, you can definitely have a wider seam allowance on this. All right, so now we're going to get the other side done. I just like to start at the top. Coming up onto the top of the pockets. I like to back tack it here. And coming up onto my red. All right, so that side is done. Now we're going to get our exterior piece done. So now we're going to get to the next step of getting everything put together. So let's clip our curves, and they're only there at the bottom. So this is where you can grab your scissors or you can grab some pinking shears, and that's what I do. I just kind of get my little pinking shears out, and I'm just going just along a little bit on the edges of the curves here on both sides, just catching it a little bit. Just going to give it a little bit more flex right there. You don't really probably have to do it, particularly on the lining, because it doesn't really get that much stress, but there is a little bit more stress onto the exterior part of the bag. Just doing a little bit here and a little bit here. Now we got a little bit of ironing we got to do. All right, so let's go to the ironing station. Got a little bit pressy before we put these two pieces together. All right, so with our exterior piece, we got to press some seams open. I found it easier if I go ahead and turn it right side out, pushing out all of the edges, just giving a good push out. And we need to press this side seam open as far as close to the bottom as we can, but particularly right here on this strap. So we're just going to pop this open. And we're going to press this seam open, and then we're going to fold it over about 1/4 of an inch. So first I try to get as much down as I can get by pressing that seam open. Then while it's still a little warm, I'm going to fold it over about 1/4 of an inch. Might be a little bit more of that, but I'm just eyeballing it, just folding it over to hide that raw edge right there. And now I'm going to press it again. And I want that to really stay in there. So I'm going to grab a couple of clips and I'm going to hold it into place. I want that seam to set. We kind of are trying to hide that raw edge. Going to the other side, same thing, open up the seam. Press it as far down as you can get it. I think in the instructions I say go all the way down to the curve. It can be a little booger getting it all the way down to that curve, but I get as far as I can. And then same thing, I'm going to roll it over about the same amount as what I have on the other side. And you can kind of put them beside each other to see, okay, where I wanted it to be. I want it to be the exact same. Kind of seeing it right there. Pressing it. And I'm going to grab a couple clips, particularly for this piece right here, because that canvas is a little bit heavier. Just to kind of keep holding that down. Now on the lining, I'm going to go ahead and turn it right side out. And we're going to press it too, but we're going to press only to where we get to the pocket. So I found it's easier just to turn it right side out and then open up the seam, but we're going to press it till we get to the pocket. So we don't have as much that we're having to press open. Pressing to the pocket, and then same thing, folding it over about the same amount as what we did on the exterior fabric. I see on the lining, it just kind of holds this fold over a little bit better. If you have a clip, go ahead and put a clip there to hold it. And then last seam that we're pressing open. Get it started, get it opened up. Just pressing to the pocket. When I'm folding it over, I'm kind of matching up the seam to the center right there. Add a little steam, maybe that might set that seam a little bit. All right, grabbing a clip, and I'm going to clip that one. Let's go back to the main station, to our cutting station. Now we're going to be putting them all together for our final sewing. We got literally just 2 more stitches to do. So turning this again back to the right, so it's tucked inside. All right, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and turn your lining back to where it's inside out. And you've got your bag piece right here where it is right side out. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip the lining over our bag. And it doesn't matter which side because the lining is the same on both sides. So we're just going to slip this one in. We're slipping the lining over the exterior part of the bag. Grabbing our straps, and we're just going to kind of tuck it down in there. And be sure that your little tab is tucked down inside. Now we're just going to match up everything. So we're going to start, I'm going to match up my centers. So here's the lining with the tab. So I'm lining up my centers here and here, and I'm going to put a clip in there to hold it. I'm going to go ahead and match the center up on the other side where we had cut our centers, and I'm going to put a clip there. Then we're going to go up to the sides. And we are going to put some clips in to hold it down on both sides. And we're just going to clip it and line up, match up our curves just to hold everything in place. And if you measured everything down the same on your top of the straps, they should all just match up pretty good. Line matching up the curves as we go. Put a couple clips in it just to hold it. Because we're just going to now stitch all the way around on both sides. Just we're doing a full stitch, but we're not stitching across the top of the straps. We're only stitching this big U and this big U on both sides, leaving the top of the strap open. Matching up my curves. Curves here. All right, so all we got to do is stitch two big U's. So we're going to stitch from on one side, leaving the top open, stitch down the other side. And then we'll turn it right side out through the opening that we had left. And then the last thing is we're going to insert our straps on each side, clip those into place, and top stitch it. Once you get your top stitching done, you are finished. So let's go ahead and get this part done. So we're just doing 1/4 of an inch all the way around these curves. Here's a hint. A lot of times when I find myself working on something that has a curve like this, I take the setting off of my machine to not have where every time I stop, my foot lifts up. When my foot's lifting up, then sometimes the fabric gets repositioned. So when I'm doing something with a large arc or a curve like I'm doing here, I like to bring it to where my foot stays down. So as I'm shifting and pulling, I'm not going to be having a little stitch that goes sideways. I don't know if anybody else has done that, but I seem to find that it works good for me. Going over the tab, on the edges I'm kind of giving a little back tack just to give it a little reinforcement. And then we're coming up to the last curve. Coming up to the top. Now this is where it gets a little tricky because sometimes your little areas that you folded over want to come back up. So keep them folded down and make sure they don't lift back up as you're trying to go over this part right here. You're fighting the foot with this seam right here. All right, got that one. Now we're going to do the other side. making sure that everything stays folded over and lined up. And right there, so it lifted up on me, so I'm going to stop before it gets there. Tuck it under and try to catch it without it flipping back up. There we go. All right, so now we got that done. Before we turn it right side out, we need to clip our curves or get your pinky shears out. We're going to do that with our pinkers. We're going to clip this big arc right here. So just don't do, I don't do all of it. I think I just do part of it. Mostly where it starts arcing here in the base, in the corner, as it's heading down towards the center. Just catching it a little bit there, here, and here on both sides of where the tab is. Just a little bit. Do it on both sides. I don't know if it needs to be done. It's your preference, but I find it, I see a curve and I feel like I need to clip it, right? So let's get this last piece right here. Not getting too close. Okay. All right, so now we're going to find our opening and we are going to pull it through and push out our strap, or the top part of our strap. Just pull it all the way out. You will have to, once you get it all the way out where the lining is already tucked in, then you got to reach in here to find the strap pieces and just kind of push them out. You might have to grab your knitting needle or something, or you can get with your finger to get it in there to push the top of the strap out. And then you got the other one to do too. Get pushing it out. There we go. Kind of see if you can press out your seams a little bit. It's kind of hard to do with kind of an odd angle all of this is. So it's kind of pulling it a little bit. Once you have that done, then you're going to go ahead and take your pocket and we're going to slide it into the bag. So we're going to push this right back in here. Open it up, push the big lining piece inside. Kind of finagle it a little bit. There we go. There we go. So now our lining still has the big opening on it, but we'll get to that in a minute. So now we've got pretty much everything's done. We just got to top stitch it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take it to the iron and you're going to give it a good press all the way around. Give it a good press on both sides. And then once you have it pressed, you're going to take your strap. So making sure that your seam is centered and you've got a good bit that's open, flattened right here where you got where the scrunchy part is away from the edge. So about, give yourself about 1.5 inches or so where you don't have a scrunch on both sides. Right here and here. So once you have it pressed and before you top stitch it, you're going to take your strap. Now remember we had folded it over. You're going to take the strap and you're going to insert it now. It should fit right into the opening there you have. And you're going to slide it down to your preference, 1 inch, 1.5 inches, maybe just a 1/2 inch. But you're going to slide it down. You're going to make sure everything is tucked in nice and neat. You want the seam to be on the bottom. So you don't want the seam of the strap to be on top where it's up here. You want it to be on the bottom. So once you have it positioned, grab a couple clips, hold it just to hold it into place. Go to the other side, being careful you haven't twisted it from getting it to the other side. Same thing, you're going to tuck this down into where we had the top of the strap and fold it over. It should just slide right in there. It should be kind of snug, should be almost right about 1 inch. And position it to where you want it to be. If you want it to be a 1/2 inch in, what you could do is you could put a couple clips in it. And this might be a point where you think, you know, I might want this to be longer than this. And if you want it to be longer than this, then just, you know, make your webbing a little bit longer. But you can put a couple clips in it to see, do you like where it's sitting on you when you have it on. So once you have it positioned, then the only thing left is you're going to top stitch. So you're going to top stitch all the way across here, going all the way around, coming across again, top stitch all the way around, and ending back onto the strap. Now, one of the other things that I did is I wanted the strap to be a little bit more secure. I think I did it on this one. Now this one I top stitched it in gold. So after I had top stitched all the way around, then I went back and about 1/4 of an inch down from my top stitch here, I added another row of stitching where I went back and forth here, and I did it onto the other side, just to give it a little bit more strength onto here, not just the top stitching. And another thing, when I top stitched it here, I did on the strap part at the top right here, I did my regular 1.0 or 8 inch stitch length going across here. But as soon as I pivoted to start stitching around the curve, then I increased my stitch length to, I think, 3.5 to 4. Did it all the way around till I came to the other strap part. When I got to that corner and I pivoted, then I dropped my stitch length down, went across it, then raised the stitch length back up, and then finished the other side. Once you have that done, everything's done, and you do your reinforcement stitch at 1/4 of an inch down, you're going to reach inside your bag and you're going to close your opening. Once you have that done, clip any threads that you might see, and your bag, your little bag is complete, and you'll find that the snap will fit perfectly in position. So that's Martelli, or Lisa's, I wanted this to have my name, Lisa's Hobo Bag. This one was a lot of fun. I designed this from scratch. I hadn't seen anybody that's had a scrunchy strap. I love the scrunchy strap. I saw a picture of one, but I think it wasn't solid like this. So I did it with the 1 inch. I've done them with the 2 inches. They're just a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed making this bag. Again, while I've got you, I want to show you again, go back over. This is such a fun project. Imagine doing this in so many different colors, so many different variations. Again, this was the very first one I had done, and again, used an old earring and turned it into a zipper pull here. Of course, I think we're going to make some kits with the Martelli fabric. How cool would that be? But here is the purple one. Again, there's that earring that I had attached to make it part of my zipper pull. Again, this is a panel, just a regular 24-inch panel, made the bottom part of the hobo bag, but I had enough of it to create most of the lining inside. Let me pull this out. I'm going to flip it out so you can see it. You can't really tell. It's not something that you always see, but there is the top of that bag, top of that, what was it, panel. And all I did was I turned my pocket into the coordinating fabric. But I think this one's my favorite one right here. How cute is this? Absolutely adorable. I used that same fabric to peekaboo it on the inside. Got your big pockets in here. I have the denim that's on the outside. And this is just taking a clip, an O-ring, and then several threads, fabrics. I think I cut this at 1 inch. And did it with pinking shears and just added on here. Makes it just a cute little zipper pull. So that is the hobo bag. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed creating this one. I think this one will be a good one for a lot of you people out there who like to make things and take them to little bazaars and shows and sell them. So I think this will be a really good money maker for you. And be sure to pick up the large one, because the large one is just so roomy, and then just play around with it to create the pockets on the inside to make it where you can have a cup in it. And I'm going to show you that real quick so you can see what I'm doing. In the instructions, I don't have the instructions where I talked about putting the cup holder. This is just an experiment. But what I did, instead of where I laid the pocket flat all the way across when we did the pocket, I had it lined up on even on one side, and on the other side I lined it up even. I had two sides that are flat, but I wanted the pocket to be where I could put that soda or drink down in here. So when I go to attach it to the bottom, I sewed to that pocket. So I had to top stitch the top and bottom of this piece right here, top stitch the top and the bottom, and then stitched across and stopped to where I wanted my width of my pocket to be. And if you'll notice, it doesn't lay flat. It's the excess kind of pushed over on the edge seam, so now it puffs out so I can slide a big cup in there. And on the opposite side, opposite corner, I did a smaller one, so if I wanted to put a water bottle on one side, have my big mug on the other, just to kind of balance out the weight. But it was just fun trying to figure that out. And I hope you pick up the large one because it is a fun size. And I'm going to show you again. So here is the big one. Just a big, great bag that you can put your cups in there, put your laptop in there, and then here's the size of our smaller one. Just a great, they're just absolutely fun. I hope you enjoy them. Thank you so much for being a part of our June Sew and Show subscription box. Be sure to post a picture so that you can be a part of our drawing that we have on the first week sometime in July. Thank you again so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.